the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. You a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? Hold on. my shit was fucking up. Wait, one second, everybody. There we go. I don't know why it's not, hold on, link scenes. Okay, all right. Sorry, trying this thing where I'm also streaming on Instagram right now. Just thought I'd try that out. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be taking a first look at Metatron's video where he tries to establish in 2025 that Jesus actually existed. Trust me, he's got a lot of shit to say. It's like over a 50-minute video, but we are only going to be trying to handle his methodological approach. Although that does take about 20 minutes to get through. But what we're going to do tonight is we are going to be covering this methodological approach and at least covering his handling of independent sources and why he thinks that that's a red flag if you were going to ask for independent sources for Jesus. So, if you want to fuck around and find out how Metatron is completely wrong about his historical methodology, then please stay tuned. All right, heathens. Well, tonight we have a lot of great stuff that's going on. We don't have exactly a full slate. Brocephus is still kind of recovering from, all of the shit that I've been putting him through. with travel and everything like that. So we're going to be what we're going to be doing tonight, though, is we are going to be going over some news. I got a lot of news to cover because a lot of news has been happening, and I haven't done news in a while. And then we're going to go over some choice comments from the Facebook page. Mostly the Facebook page. I think there's one from YouTube that was kind of funny. So we're going to be going over that, and then we're going to dive right on into the video tonight, since we do have so much to cover with Metatron. If you will, please consider sending in a super chat if you're watching over there on YouTube. I'd really appreciate you supporting the channel. Another way you can support the channel is by joining the Skeptic Mafia. The Skeptic Mafia, sorry, I actually, I think I did. I was going to say, I forgot to share this with the Skeptic Mafia, but no, I'm fairly certain that I did. And I believe people commented on it. I don't know. Maybe some did. Hold on. Let me check real quick. Yep, there are some comments on it. So we got some Skeptic Mafia comments to get through tonight. So if you heathens will, hit that join link over there on YouTube, and you too can help select the Friday night videos. Although I got to figure out some kind of new schedule for streaming, because I'm trying to get more involved over there at the line and stuff like that. So just got to figure out some new things as we move forward, especially with the new schedule at work and everything. Anyways, so first up tonight, we have the news. Who's ready for some news tonight? I know I'm ready to talk about the news. You ready for the news, honey? Everybody over on Instagram has never heard me sing this before. So, all right, here we go. Let's talk about the news. Today I learned... Beautiful singing voice, huh, everybody? Let's see, for some reason all of my vertical scenes got totally unlinked for whatever reason, so we're gonna have to gradually get through that over there on Instagram. All right, so first up on the news. Now, this is an evolving situation that we're first going to talk about tonight, okay? And that's big balls. I feel like everybody, knows about big balls, and Mighty Big Balls over here. He has some. Oh shit! Wait, sorry, I fucked something up over here. This is going swimmingly tonight, I have to say. This is awesome. Okay, let me transform. Reset the transform. There we go. There. Okay, now we're set up for this, which that's actually really small. Hold on. I thought I actually went through and we got a new member. Woo, new member. Holy shit, yeah. A member chat. Member chat. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, tell people don't forget to send the super chats. You'll read them.
Oh, yeah. So everybody that's watching over on YouTube, if you send in a super chat, I will directly interact with you. You also see Brocephus pop up down there. So if you want to see Brocephus pop up, consider sending in super chats. Really helps us keep the lights on here. Also, so that I don't have to start begging like Cameron Bertuzzi. Dumping Trash says technical problems with GE, sponsored by Casey. All right, so yes, anybody that knows that this is the Doge douche, but this is an evolving situation. I'll read my what I've got for news right now, and then I'll update you guys as needed as far as where current events are deviating from what I wrote up a little while ago, because like what I wrote up a little while ago was accurate at the time. But anyways, all right. So you know what I love about America? Well, we've got a guy in government, or maybe he was. I'm not exactly sure what his status is, but we got this guy named nicknamed Big Balls. You been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Suck that dong. Artemis Brain Sample says, I miss you like a SCOTUS I trust. Thank you so much, Artemis. I appreciate you down there. So we've got this guy in government called Big Balls, which, let's face it, sounds like a wrestler from the 1970s, or maybe something you'd order at a sports bar. He's getting his ass handed to him by a 15-year-old girl. And suddenly, our dear leader Trump goes from bragging about how his mere presence made DC crime rates drop. That's literal, by the way. If you look back in May at a press conference, I saw it today. He said that he was taking credit for the low crime rates, right? He was taking credit for the crime rate drop to declaring that the Capitol is a goddamn war zone that needs martial law. Okay, the irony here is so thick, Trump can't wrap his tiny hands around it to do his double pump chump dance. 1 minute, Trump is taking credit for DC's 30-year low in violent crime, and the next minute, he's sending in 800 National Guard troops because apparently the place is more dangerous than Bogota or Mexico City. What happened? Did the crime statistics suddenly develop selective amnesia? Or maybe they got mugged by reality on their way to the White House briefing room. But here's the beautiful part, really. The actual data shows that violent crime in DC dropped 26% in 2025. But hey, why let facts interfere with a perfectly good power grab? I mean, it's like saying your house is on fire while standing next to a garden sprinkler. This is just another example of how the Trump administration is looking for any excuse to develop the Fourth Reich here in America. Now, transitioning a little bit, we've got Melania suing Hunter Biden for $1 billion because he said Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to Trump. $1 billion for suggesting someone made an introduction at like a party or maybe on a plane that he could be on a list for. That's like charging someone $1 million for saying, hey, you two should meet. And, you know, Hunter's response, it's a classic 2-word review that I shouldn't really repeat here on social media. I might get taken down. But I can guarantee you that it rhymes with duck fat. I'm guessing that's fuck that. I don't know. Anyways, but here's what gets me. We're arguing about who introduced to whom, while the Epstein files sit locked away like the crown jewels. Trump promised full transparency on those documents, then suddenly developed a case of governmental constipation. Maybe, just maybe, if we actually saw those files, we could settle this whole introduction debate once and for all. But no, we'd rather have a $1 billion lawsuit and federal takeovers of police departments. I mean, it's all connected, okay? One teenager smacks around a Doge employee, 15-year-old girl, and then suddenly we need military control of the nation's capital. One guy mentions a party introduction from 25 years ago, and it's worth more money than most countries' GDP. Meanwhile, the documents that could actually shed light on who was doing what with whom remain as sealed as the Pharaoh's tomb. We should really see the Epstein files, just to be sure, because in a world where big balls get small and politicians declare war on statistics, maybe the truth is the only thing that can save us from this beautiful, ridiculous circus we call an American democracy. Which kind of brings me to my next point, and that's assault sandwiches. Or really, conservatives have become really weak snowflakes. Like, they melt over everything, right? So they got this guy, his name's Sean Dunn. He was arrested on felony assault charges for throwing a Subway sandwich at a cop. A sandwich. Now, you know, not a brick, not a bottle, not even decent Italian sub. You know, something that's got some heft to it. It's a Subway sandwich, which we all know barely qualifies as food in the first place. But here's the beautiful hypocrisy of it all. Trump's up there telling his stormtroopers that they can do whatever the hell they want if someone spits at them. You spit and we hit, he says. Real tough guy rhetoric from Captain Bone Spurs. Meanwhile, this sandwich slinger gets the full federal treatment, fired from his DOJ job, charged with a felony that could land him 8 years in prison. 8 years for what amounts to an aggressive lunch delivery, or well, dinner in this case. And then we've got Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. And Jesus, what kind of name is Mark Wayne, really? Anyways, this guy's out there during Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing, talking like he's leading some kind of military charge. I'll lead the breach. I'll provide the cover fire. I'll take the hill. I had a dream where I was covered in camo and cosplaying an American hero. I mean, except for that last part, that's exactly what he said on Twitter. Meanwhile, the sandwich slinger gets, I backtrack a little bit there. Sounds like Rambo, right? But then this same tough talking warrior admits that he's too scared to drive around DC with a seatbelt on because he's terrified of getting carjacked. Can you imagine going from, in one instance, being like, I will lead the charge, I will provide suppressing fire, I will drag your ass when you get shot by your own gun, to I'm too scared to drive with my seatbelt on. Oh, what am I gonna do if I get carjacked and I don't have that extra 2.5 seconds? I mean, seriously, how fucking snowflakey can you get about it? Think about that for a second. Here's a guy who's going to claim that he's going to lead the breach, provide cover fire and everything like that for Pete Hegseth, but he can't handle basic traffic safety because he's afraid of some carjacker. Some, fictional carjacker for right now. I mean, he could get carjacked, but I mean, I don't think that the extra 2 seconds is really going to help you out all that much in that particular situation. But he's literally breaking the law, which is a $50 fine in DC because he's so scared. But somehow this is the same hero that was going to storm the Capitol for democracy. The cognitive dissonance is so thick that you could just spread it on fucking toast, right? And then next, this leads directly into you have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Artemis Brainsapple says, being forgotten is effortless and fun like porn. that's some weird some weird like fortune cookie shit there, Artemis. Thank you, I appreciate that. Here's where it gets really rich though, as far as ice goes and how snowflakey they fucking are, because that's who the guy was throwing the sandwich at, was like an ice person. Right there, right in the chest, and apparently that's a federal crime. But anyways, the real rich thing here is that Trump pardoned over 1,500 people who actually assaulted cops on January 6th. We're talking about people who beat police officers with flagpoles, sprayed them with chemical irritants. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Have him turn around and show you the back.
Okay.
So we'll count Elizabeth's as 2.
All right. So Elizabeth says, let's see the shirt. 2. We need one more $5 super chat in order for
3 more.
Oh, 3 more.
$5
super chats. So 3 more super chats, and I'll show you this. I'll show you the shirt. All right. Let me get back in here real quick.
Elizabeth said math is hard.
Let's see. Spray them with chemical irritants and left 140 officers injured. Some of these pardoned patriots had criminal records for rape, domestic violence, and child abuse, but they get a clean slate because they were doing it for the dear leader Trump. Meanwhile, the same cops who got beaten senseless by Trump supporters are now under Trump's command, which caveat from today, they're not under the command anymore, but before, there was some intervening things, they kind of were. I don't know how that works. And they're being told that they can do whatever the hell they want to the people who dare spit at them. The Metropolitan Police Department Union, whose officers were attacked on January 6th, now say that they completely agree that crime in DC is out of control. Remember earlier when I said that it's at a 30-year low? How can it be at a 30-year low and still just be crazy out of control? These are the same officers who watch their colleagues get brutalized by the people Trump had just pardoned. Can you imagine being a police officer and seeing Trump pardon those people and then see him announce like, oh, there's so much crime. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Artemis says I was trying to send $2 Canadian. Yeah. Narnia math is kind of hard there.
Artemis already sent, so Artemis sent 4 cents. We'll count that as the third.
Okay, so now there's 3. We just need 2 more $5 super chats for you to see the shirt. It is a new shirt, by the way, and it's apparently something that I inspired. Just a little bit of incentive there. I inspired this shirt. But just imagine being this a police officer, seeing Trump like pardon people that senselessly beat and abuse the DC Metro Police on January 6th. And now Trump is like, I'm going to use you to fuck general citizens up. Just everybody up. If they spit on you, you can fucking kill them. The moral bankruptcy of all this is so complete, it's almost artistic. You assault a cop when trying to overthrow the government, presidential pardon. You throw a sandwich while protesting authoritarianism in the streets, federal prison time. Make that make sense. Can you make that make sense for me? Because it's not making a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. Tater's gonna tate. Oh, hold on. I scrolled down too far and I missed a section. Oh, Gary White, I'm surprised that Trump did that. Does that count?
It counts as 2 more.
2. So we got, is that the 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an AXP shirt. Sorry. AXP shirt. And what y'all will know which hat of mine inspired this, but I think, did I get it? I think so, yeah. Fuck God! That's the shirt. Fuck God. And y'all know which hat I'm talking about. Anyways, all right.
Who designed it?
Oh, yeah. Greg.
Sorry, Greg.
Yeah, Greg from AXP. I was on a panel with him, but he wore this and he was inspired by one of my hats that I have to make it. Yeah, he wore it at NanoCon, and I was able to get it from them. So pretty awesome. So if you want to, you can go over to AXP's store over there. I'll have that linked up after the show or whatnot. But you can go to AXP's merchandise store and you can buy one of these shirts if you want to. All right. So I actually used the wrong fucking thing up there for the January 6th thing. But anyways, meanwhile. Right? While they're clutching their pearls over the sandwich terrorism, ICE agents are out there using flashbang grenades on protesters, sledgehammers to smash car windows, and treating immigration raids like military operations. They're rolling up to arrest single individuals with armored vehicles, tactical gear, and military-style rifles. But God forbid somebody throws a fucking turkey club at their bulletproof vests. That's the real offense, right? These ICE operations have gotten so militarized, they're throwing flashbangs at crowds protesting in Los Angeles. Flashbangs! Those are military-grade diversionary devices designed for combat situations. And they're using them on American citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. But a Subway sandwich thrown at their chest? That's where we draw the line. No, assault turkey clubs is apparently the line in the sand for the big, bold, and tough ICE agents that have to walk around with fucking masks. I hurt my nose on that one. The whole enforcement apparatus has become this bizarre theater of the absurd where the real violence comes from the state. ICE agents are zip-tying children, smashing windows in front of kids, and conducting what they can only be described as psychological terror campaigns in communities. Do you really think they care about the children? Whenever you hear them in a press conference talk about, but the children, they don't care about the children. They will zip tie the fuck out of children all day. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. You're a better person than you're a god, RDB. Thank you, Artemis Brain Sample. Appreciate you. That's a good one. But the guy who got frustrated with all of this, with hearing all of the bullshit propaganda and seeing ICE take whole families away, zip tying children up, he got it frustrated and threw his lunch, threw his dinner at some motherfucker in the street that's doing this, and he gets treated like Osama bin Sandwich.
Funny.
Yeah. But ultimately, this is what passes for law and order now, and at least in Trump's America. Militarized federal agents terrorizing communities while politicians like Mullen cosplay as tough guys between episodes of being too scared to wear seatbelts. Oh no, not the seatbelt! They've turned weakness into strength and strength into weakness through the sheer force of their own delusion. Trump himself, the guy who supposedly represents masculine toughness, I don't know who the fuck would think that, but spent January 6th hiding in the White House while his supporters did his dirty work. And he didn't even come out for hours to say anything. And then it was just a really lame attempt at getting them to go home. But he's tough enough to sick 800 National Guard troops on Washington, D.C., because someone threw a fucking sandwich? Or even worse yet, one of his little Doge kids that got hired in, whose name is Big Balls, got slapped around a little bit like he's part of some kink. Real profiles in courage, these people are. The whole conservative movement has become this bizarre cult of performative toughness built on a foundation of pure cowardice. They talk like warriors while being afraid of their own fucking shadows, project strength while demonstrating profound moral weakness, and claim to support law and order while pardoning the most violent lawbreakers in recent American history. So there you have it. In Trump's America, throwing a sandwich is terrorism, but beating cops with flagpoles is patriotism. Being afraid to wear a seatbelt makes you a big, strong, toughy guy. But using a flashbang grenades on protesters is just good policing. Welcome to the land of the free and the home of the morally bankrupt, where the only consistent principle is hypocrisy itself. George Carlin once said, "It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it." And for those of you that think the American dream is still a thing, you need to wake the fuck up. All right, that's going to be it for the news tonight. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. Now we've got comments. Sorry, forgot to. Well, yeah, I just mentioned that he doesn't have control over it right now.
Okay, sorry, I just missed it because I was playing.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for playing in the chat, honey. So just for those of you out there that weren't clear, currently right now, Donald Trump doesn't have control over DC Metro. It's hung up in federal court right now, but it's kind of just a matter of time. They're working it out and everything like that. I'm sure he's eventually going to get control of DC Metro. And then they were they replaced the police chief with somebody that's
Commissioner?
or the police commissioner.
No, they replaced the DC Metro Police Chief
They replaced the DC Metro Police Chief
with a commissioner from the Justice Department who was in charge.
With a commissioner that was from the Justice Department, a Trump guy. So there you go. Hold on, I'm trying to get this thing situated over here. Okay, now I hope you guys are ready for comments. I know I am. Hold on, I gotta do this. Wait a second. It's you gotta give me a second. It's been a minute. All right, here we go. Comments of the day. Prepare to facepalm yourself into next week. All right, now we've got comments. I hope you guys are ready because these are real shitty. First up is Robert Hull, who for some reason wanted to flex this. Wait a second.
This said, "Oh my, that is tune." Being out of tune is the charm.
Yeah, hold on one second, everybody. I just gotta fix this over there on the Instas. Okay. All right. So first up, Robert Hull. He says you couldn't even beat up a child. Like, this is such a fucking crazy ass thing to like put out there in the ether, you know, just put out there on social media. Like, how is this really a flex on me? Like, is this really, like, I don't want to be known as the guy that does beat up children. Like, you couldn't even beat up a child. I wouldn't beat up a child, Robert. You know why I wouldn't beat up a child is because I'm not an abusive asshole that beats up weaker individuals. I don't lord my strength over children. Maybe you need to be investigated or something, because I feel like this is not normal.
We got a new member.
Mark Fernkopf, who says, we don't keep shame here. Oh, we don't kink shame here. CBT is a legitimate kink and can be quite fun in the right partner. Cock and ball torture. It seems appropriate for big balls. Oh yeah, totally. No, I wasn't trying to kink shame, but it does seem like big balls got slapped around just a little bit too hard there. And it seems like if you were going to be into that kink, you would definitely be prepared for it. And at least not be such a little bitch about it. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Artemis Brain Sample says musicality is to brain Dane Bramage as forestry is to, and I don't know if he's going to do a second one. But anyways, if you're ever out there and you want to like claim somebody is weak, choose a different way than saying you can't beat up a child. Like, I feel like that's the you know, what you would take away from this. It just seems really weird to flex like that. Next up is this guy who says, and this is on my debate with No Degree Required, Matt Adams, over whether or not Mary was like raped or you know, whatnot. And this guy says, typical atheist grift. She could have spoken up and said no. This would have been a great honor. So basically, I feel like what this is amounting to is the whole trope, right, in toxic masculinity of like, well, the girl could say no and it would stop, right? Like, you know, she didn't say no, she didn't resist or anything, so therefore it's not rape. And that's just bullshit, because in these situations where, you know, you have a much stronger guy or, you know, whoever the rapist is, and they're lording something over this person. Either they've got them alone, maybe they're drunk or intoxicated or something like that. And, you know, it's like, she didn't say no, so I guess it's okay. Like, that's really toxically masculine, and it is still rape. That's one. So that's one gross point right here. Second gross point is this would have been a great honor. This statement right here basically amounts to she liked it. And like, that is just fucking disgusting there, Move I Got This. Like, that's really fucking disgusting to even put out there, okay? Anybody, any toxically masculine person that goes out there and says some crazy shit like this, no, don't even put this out there, because it's just so fucking gross to even say. Like, I feel like everybody understands how bad she would have liked it, or she did like it, or something like that. Everybody knows exactly how gross that fucking is, okay? Next up is Nicole Vandervecht, I guess. She was responding to me about what rights we have lost. Right? Like, what rights have we really lost? And I feel like it's pretty plain and simple what rights we've lost. Due process is being violated. Women's bodily autonomy has been ripped away from them. Soon, we're probably going to have marriage equality ripped away from us. So, like, it's very obvious what rights are being taken away. And, but Nicole comes back with this after me pointing those kind of things out. Funny, the loony left has been trying to take the rights of women for years. Okay, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean by the loony left has been trying to take the rights of women for years? the left has not been the ones that have advocated for family voting, where it's the man that votes. The loony left hasn't been the ones that have put forth the idea of repealing the women's suffrage amendment. The loony left aren't the ones that are trying to currently take down LGBTQ rights. Like, the loony left is not trying to take any rights from anybody, except if you consider it a right to, like, yell slurs at people and stuff like that, which you can still do. You don't get thrown in jail for yelling slurs at somebody. You can go out there and be as racist as you fucking want to. You're not going to get thrown in jail for it. So not even that right is being taken away by anybody. But Republicans, conservatives like this, they want to be able to say whatever racist, gross thing that they can and not suffer consequences for it. They don't want freedom of speech. They want freedom from consequences. But she continues, like allowing the men to become a woman. How is that taking any rights from you? Like, how is that trying to take rights from women? Like, allowing trans people to exist, that is not taking rights from anybody. Somebody else gaining equal rights, the same rights that you do, does not diminish or take away your rights, dipshit. Men and women's sports, again, not restricting any kind of right that you may have. Bathroom and changing rooms, still not removing any kind of rights from women whatsoever. That allowing people to have equal rights does not remove your rights. That's just fact. Like, I feel like this is basic logic at this fucking point. So now women don't have the right to privacy. Also allowing a man become woman of the year. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what she's talking about there. I'm sure that there's something out there about a trans person becoming woman of the year. Trans women are women. So if you don't like that, then you just need to fucking update your whole worldview there, because it's archaic as shit. But also, women do have the right to privacy. Trans women being women, they have a right to privacy. So they should be able to use the bathroom that they identify with, just like everybody else. Also, I want to say, this person more than likely voted for Trump, just gauging by how she's talking here. He literally bragged openly on the radio about going into little girls' changing rooms and inspecting the pageant. And so, while they're changing, while they're back there like naked and everything like that, changing costumes for the Miss USA pageant or whatever, Miss Teen USA or whatever, going back there to investigate, and he's bragging about it publicly on the radio. How can you sit there and honestly try to convince me that Donald Trump or the loony left doesn't care about women's privacy when the person you voted for violates women's privacy like it's nothing? And then she went, and Clinton passed a bill in 1996 to expedite deportations. Yeah, expedite them, but not remove due process. I don't have a problem with deportations. I have a problem with the removal of due process from the situation. The Constitution is very clear on this fact that every person in the United States is allowed due process, is afforded due process. Okay, that's in the Constitution. It is not restricted to citizens or anything like that. If you are a sitting elected official and you don't know this, you need to take a civics course. I don't know, do like one of those Coursera like 101 civics kind of things, because you don't know how our government is set up, and you should know considering that you got elected to office. Too bad we can't restrict the office like that, but whatever. Which doesn't affect legal Americans. Actually, it does affect legal Americans. There are legal Americans that have been caught up in raids. And if we were to remove due process, then they would eventually be deported just like everybody else they're rounding up. And they're trying to remove the due process rights of even Americans, even as we speak. They're trying to do this kind of fascistic shit. So no, Nicole, you're just completely wrong about this. And I spent way more time on this than you probably deserved. Next up is Marshall Schizler, who says, and hold on, I don't have a beer can up here. But and fuck you. Okay, fuck you. You a fucking pussy ass bitch. Okay? Oh shit, sorry, I lost my balance there. Fuck you. I don't know if like maybe he just doesn't know about punctuation or grammar or anything like that, but like you got to learn some punctuation here because you sound drunk as shit. And then finally there's this guy. I felt compelled to actually edit, like censor his stuff. So on the Facebook page, I get a lot of comments from people, and I usually have to hide stuff, especially when it's either extremely bigoted or transphobic or something like that. And so in this case, we just simply don't allow the R word on the page at all. And so this person left a comment, and I said, hid your recent comment due to the use of the R word. If you remove, I'll unhide it. Also, Trump is the pedophile. Quit protecting pedophiles. And he goes, so you are a R word pedophile and don't believe in free speech? Fucking sick demonic rats. Fuck all you sick fucks. I won't remove a fucking thing, you sick fucking pedophile. So I pointed out, as calmly as I could, Trump has raped people. Why do you stand for a rapist? Of course, this person did not even care to really respond much to that. He just continuously called me some kind of pedophile, and both Casey and myself pointed out to him all the misgivings of Donald Trump, and all he had to say about that was, well, what about Clinton? Huh?
Fucking arrest him too.
Yeah, if Clinton is some kind of like sexual deviant that has gone around raping multiple women, fucking lock him up. I see. Here's the big difference between liberals and leftists in general, and like the fucking Republicans and conservatives out there. Both of them, well, the conservatives and Republicans out there, they treat Trump as if he's some kind of golden child, and they stand for him so hard. They continuously promote this man who is a known, who has been held civilly liable for raping E. Jean Carroll. He's a 34-time felon. He is on the Epstein list. He more than likely, if he's on the Epstein list, like all the other people there, they're kid diddlers. So I'm not going to say that he is one because we need to see the list. Hey, they're not showing the list. They're not revealing the list because he's on the list. Just want to put that out there one more time. All right, that's it for the comments tonight. I hope that you guys appreciated it. I hope you liked it. I know I did. I like interacting with the comments. They're always fun. So if you want to get featured, you've got something to tell me, you can always comment on the Facebook page or even on Instagram. We're currently live over there on Instagram. Just comment there. You might make it in to one of these. If you want to call me and actually interact with me, voice to voice, I'll be live this Sunday on The Line. I'll be over there, and I believe I'm with Aaron Adair on Monday and Erica Gutsick Gibbon on Sunday night. So I've got great people that are going to be there. Also, next Friday, I'm going to be on the line with Jasper Hoffman. She's got a fabulous story. She's a great advocate for women out there in working with the Amish community and everything. And so it's just so awesome to even know her. She's an ex-Mennonite. Yeah, I guess she would be working with the Mennonites and the Amish.
Yeah, she does. She does work to try to help Amish women.
Right.
And
right.
Mennonite.
Right. Okay, so that's what I'm doing this week and everything like that. Just an impromptu like schedule update kind of thing. So just tune in Sunday night, 7 p.m. to the line. I will be there. If you have a problem with anything that I'm saying tonight, you can call in, and I would really love to hear from you. But now we're gonna get to the response video. Boom. I got a response. There we go. Hold on, let me link it because all my shit got linked. All the links got broken. Okay. All right. So this.
Remind people that they can send a super chat during your response, and you'll.
Right. Yeah. You guys can send a super chat during the response. I will stop and I'll interact with you. I'll answer your questions, especially if you have questions in this realm. I'm very adept at answering those kind of questions. So if anything is confusing, or if you think I say something wrong or something like that, definitely send a super chat and I will immediately address it. But also send a super chat, if you want to support us here for all the amazing work that we're doing. Shit talking people on the internet. I don't know why anybody would, want to pay for that. But anyways, all right. Y'all ready to get to this? I know I am.
I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay, so now this is not the entire video. I've cut sections out of this. So what we're going to be watching tonight is the methodology sections. So it's still like nearly 20 minutes long. So we're
Full video linked.
no. I do have it though where I can update. I can edit. Hold on. Now that we're to it, I can put it in there. Original video.
You're putting it in the description.
Yep. All right. Original video is linked. This is helping MAGA deconstruct.
Wine money. I can actually just make wine.
Wine money. This video hurt to watch. Praise Doug. Helping MAGA deconstruct. Thank you so much for your super chat. And yeah, I haven't actually listened to the entire thing, but I did get the transcript for it, and I had been reading it and everything like that. I immediately knew that there were a bunch of problems at the very beginning, and so we're going to find out right now why that is exactly.
Hey, just wanted to say you don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just got to suck my dick.
Limited Light says some Metatron commenters think only Jesus Mythicism is a thing, not Zoroaster, Buddha, nor Muhammad. Oh yeah, I mean they're just totally misinformed about that. They're Limited Light. The Zoroaster definitely is a factor in the development of Christianity. So, all right, let's get to this. Metatron, what do you have for us? Why don't you tell us how bad you are at history, even though you run specifically a history-related channel? It seems like you have a lot of problems with history in this particular regard. We're about to find out why.
Our methodological framework today will be organized the following way. First, we'll have a comprehensive analysis of the sources from both Roman and Jewish historians, writers who had no stake in promoting Christianity and often viewed it with hostility. Second, we'll analyze the contested issue of dating these sources and their independence from Christian influence. Subsequently, we'll undertake a meticulous analysis and critical historiographical consideration to establish the veracity and provenance of ancient testimonials within the ancient Roman imperial apparatus. Finally, we'll evaluate the convergence of the current scholarly consensus, incorporating perspectives from supporters, skeptics, apologists, and mythicists regarding the cumulative weight of the available historical evidence.
A little bit of a caveat here. He doesn't actually bring up any mythicist scholars. Like, there's several mythicist scholars that you could bring up. Begrudgingly, I can mention that one bigot's name. Netzumi.
We got a new member.
Netzumi using Zumi Tomato using their member chat today saying, wait, is he claiming to be the voice of God? That name, Metatron, is the name of the angel known to be the voice of God. Isn't that blasphemy? Yeah, I mean, he introduces himself and everything like that. He actually calls his audience the noble ones, which is very, yeah. He's like, welcome, noble ones. But yeah, he's totally he's a little weird about it, and you would think so, but he is a Christian, and I guess maybe he's fine with it. But anyways, he doesn't actually reference any actual mythicist academic works or anything like that. He will bring up scholars, but none of them are mythicists. So the bigot that I was talking about was Robert Price. He could have brought up Robert Price, but he doesn't. He could have brought up Richard Carrier, but he doesn't. He could have brought up Raphael Lataster, but he doesn't. He could have brought up David Fitzgerald, who doesn't have a doctorate in the field of history, but he does have a degree in history.
Tons of good books.
Yeah, fuck tons of good books. He's got 4 books on the question of the historicity of Jesus in general. And then he's got a 3-volume tome about the development of religion. So like, he is very brilliant, but he could have brought up any one of those, but he doesn't. He vaguely talks about mythicists, vaguely talks about mythicist talking points, and then the only scholars he actually brings up are all fucking New Testament Christian scholars.
Convergence in textual analysis and historical reliability presents us with both Christian and non-Christian evidence supporting the existence of Jesus. For the purposes of this video, we will focus on the non-Christian sources, as sources such as the Apostle Paul, the Gospels proper, or any statement made by people who already believe by faith that Jesus is God could be accused of being partial and biased.
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Julius Calvert says, we'll send some studies later, liberal versus conservative neuro stuff. I would really be interested in that there, Julius. That's pretty cool. I believe that we've got something. We had talked about having you on to kind of explain like your area of research. I know that you kind of just recently finished that, so it would probably be a good time to bring you on, but we'll be in contact there, bud. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. I wanted to stop here because he's already saying that, you know, this group of sources here are partial and biased or whatever. So, and as opposed to being impartial and unbiased, right? And I would say that the Apostle Paul there is their best evidence for a historical Jesus. I mean, I get it. Yeah, he's definitely biased in that he believes that Jesus is like the Christ and all this other stuff, and that and he provides eternal salvation through his death and everything like that. Sure, he does that, but at the same time, we can use him to establish that Jesus existed. All he's got to do is mention Jesus as a historical figure in one way or another. But the problem is that Paul doesn't, and he is our earliest and only source, technically, but we'll get into that here in a minute.
We do this to establish a basis of intellectual honesty in our research, but regardless of this parameter, we are still left with a plethora of material to work with. I'll substantiate this statement with more details on sections 10 and 11. Let's now define and delineate what sources we have. The non-Christian sources we have as evidence of Jesus' historicity are twofold. They come from Roman and Jewish authors. A dialectical analysis shows that these sources frequently manifest explicit antipathy towards Christianity. If they had a reason to question or doubt the existence of Jesus, the founder of Christianity, it would have benefited them to state it and use it. Yet,
that's not exactly true. First of all, he's using an invalid argument from silence in order to establish this. But just because they didn't say anything about him existing does not, him not existing or anything like that doesn't mean that there weren't Christians that initially believed in a purely divine Jesus figure. So like he's invalidly using an argument from silence here in order to justify the fact or this idea that no Christians consider Jesus to not be a real historical figure, which actually is false. So it's false in the way that we don't exactly have explicit texts necessarily where it, you know, the Christian group doesn't believe in a literal historical Jesus, but rather in a divine figure. We don't exactly have that, but we do have some things that are pretty close, like Colossians and Ephesians, or I don't think it's Colossians. I know it's Ephesians. Maybe it's Colossians. Anyways, two of the epistles of Paul, they the only reference to that could be given of a historical Jesus only occurs in like 1 or 2 verses, and even then those are a little bit disputed as far as I understand it. So like those could be mythicist texts that were later written, later as in later from Paul. But also the very first Christian founding fathers, not founding fathers, but the early church fathers, they were not at all concerned about the historical nature of Christianity. And you can look at any of the founding fathers like Tertullian. Papias is a little dubious there because he proclaims to be like tight with a student of the Apostle John and all this other stuff. And he claims in his works to get firsthand information, but we also know him to elaborate and to lie about a lot of different things. So Papias is a little bit problematic, but Tertullian, Irenaeus, Polycarp, and all them, like you can look at them and you will not find anywhere in the early church fathers any kind of care for the historical nature of Christianity. They only cared about the theological truths that are being taught by the religion. So to say that, they didn't write about Jesus not existing, therefore they all believe he existed historically, is to come to this conclusion through an argument from silence about them not mentioning it. But you're making a broad generalization about the early Christians and how they considered the historical nature of their faith. From what we can tell, the historical nature just wasn't even a thing that they considered. They did not care about the historical nature of it or the historical veracity of the faith. They only cared about the theological truths that were taught by the faith and the theological truths that made them feel good, as Justin Martyr would say.
No one does. This is a very important contextual clue. Historically, Christianity shook the foundations of Roman theology and pagan worship within the empire. Thus,
sorry to stop it so soon. That occurred afterwards. So that occurred after the development of the religion, after the early church fathers. So like shaking up the Romans and everything like that. If that were the case, then you wouldn't have Pliny the Younger in the 2nd century, like the early to mid 2nd century, that was basically confused as to why they were even persecuting Christians. He didn't know anything about the Christians, what they taught, or anything like that. And then he only found out through the interrogation of the Christians that he was talking to. So like, if it really did shake the foundations of the Roman belief system at that time, then you would think that Pliny the Younger or Tacitus or whatnot, they would just have ready information at the ready about the Christians. And that's just not what we find.
alerting the authorities, causing a harsh imperial response towards the new rising religion. That is why this is a fundamental socio-political factor to consider, so keep it in mind as we carefully review the work.
Oh, I'll definitely keep it in mind there, Metatron, because it seems like what you're doing is you're already taking information that isn't actually anything that we can be sure is real information, and instead of like verifying that information, you're just taking these people at their word. Even inventing information, if you're talking about the very first, Christians and early church fathers caring about the historical veracity of the faith, you're basically establishing everything right here at the beginning as stuff that is not necessarily made up, but is just not evidentially supported. And you're just claiming these things without any kind of real evidence to back it up, which makes it ad hoc. So you're initially starting out your entire methodological analysis of the evidence with an ad hoc supposition about the evidence. There's no way that you can have a good hypothesis if you're starting out with your very first I don't know, axiom or very first piece of information just being an unsupported piece of information. Like, that's just never going to work out for you.
words of the ancients. There are usually two main counter-arguments used to discredit the sources we're about to examine, with the aim of either rejecting them a priori or to at least significantly diminish their historical validity and relevance. One, the question of whether these authors wrote independently of Christian thought or influence.
Yes, so independence is very important when we're talking about sources. This is a critical part of source criticism. And why it's important in source criticism to consider the independent nature of these sources is because of the criterion of multiple attestation. If you have multiply independent, if you have something that is corroborated by multiple independent sources, then it's more than likely going to be true. Oh, okay. Sorry, for some reason I thought I was up on the screen over there, and I noticed something weird happened on my OBS, but
It looks fine on the.
okay, yeah, no, I don't need you to put it up there.
I was just trying to get updates on the Russia
thing.
But they're just saying the same shit over and over, so I'll put.
Oh, you don't have to. I noticed something happening on my screen. I just wanted to make sure that we were still good. Okay. So one of the most critical things of historical research is source criticism. And one of the important aspects of it is like the criterion of multiple attestation. But it's not just that we have multiple sources that claim it. It has to be multiple independent sources. So considering how early our references are in Christianity, like with Paul being in between the 50s and 65 CE, that's going to seriously limit our pool of independent sources, because anything that was written after Paul could have been influenced by Paul. And if they got their information from Paul, which we could verifiably do for all of the Gospels, as well as, all of the external sources to the claim about Jesus, it's all influenced by Paul. And so what we would need is independently corroborating information from what Paul established, because then it's just Paul saying a thing and then other people repeating it, right? Just because Paul says a thing and other people repeat it doesn't mean that you have umpteen million sources for it. You have one source, right? This is basic historical research here.
And two, the question of whether or not these sources are contemporary to Jesus.
Yeah, thank you, Gary White, for becoming a globe head. I appreciate you. Everybody in the chat that is over there on YouTube, and you're a member of the Skeptic Mafia, just do the emojis real quick. We used to do that every time we got a new member, and it's been so long since we got a member. So everybody do the emojis in the chat there, the custom emojis. But okay, let me just back up a little bit here.
And two, the question of whether or not these sources are contemporary to Jesus's life.
Right. The contemporaneous sources are important. Now, all of this is about strengthening your conclusions here, right? So like if you have a source that is contemporaneous to Jesus's life, that is going to be stronger than a secondhand source that is farther removed from Jesus's lifetime, and that source is going to be stronger than a source that's 3 times removed from it, like a third-hand source, and so on and so forth. So the more contemporaneous a source is, the stronger it can be, the stronger the evidence is for whatever you're looking to establish. So both of these, independence and contemporaneity, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Both of those things are very important to any kind of historical research. Source criticism is a very important part of historical research. So he's here about to complain about that. He's already prefaced this with, these are the 2 main things that are stumbling blocks, or that are used by mythicists in order to disregard all of the sources that he discusses in his video. So let me just get this straight, okay? Check me on this there, hon. I don't know if you've been paying attention. But what it seems to me is that he's saying, essentially, basic historical research is used to discredit all of the sources I'm about to tell you about that prove that Jesus existed. So if all of the sources are discredited when you do basic historical research, then it seems like maybe there's not any, hardly any evidence to establish that Jesus existed. Yeah? If basic historical research is caustic to your hypothesis in this situation, or to your evidence for your hypothesis, then you need new evidence or you need a new fucking hypothesis.
Yeah, you bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, you bitch.
So, are these independent sources and are these contemporary sources to Jesus' life? These logical structures are monumental red flags. They
Rephrasing now, basic historical research is a red flag for my bullshit hypothesis. That's what you should hear when he says that. If basic historical method, when the basic historical method that all historians use to apply to all areas of history, when that is a red flag for the bullshit that you're pushing, that itself is a red flag here. Because you don't have shit to stand on. You don't have one piece of evidence to stand on. If it can't pass basic source criticism, then you have fucking nothing, okay? His entire 50-minute video is built on a pile of shit.
They are logical fallacies that should not be taken seriously by any historian, scholar, or amateur.
Basic historical research is a logical fallacy. It hurts the logic of my conclusion because I'm assuming Jesus existed and he's the magical Jesus that existed. Therefore, all of these things that mention Jesus prove that the magical Jesus existed. Do you see how circular that is? He's basically up shit creek with one paddle and he's spinning around, like with one paddle. He's just going around in circles there. Oh, I could assume Jesus existed. And then I have all these sources now that prove that Jesus existed. Do I need to be any more explicit about that?
Christian apologetic or atheist alike, as they operate under a false correlation paradigm. We will address both arguments, counterattack and dismantle them to their very core on sections 10 and 11 respectively. Furthermore, in section 11 I will demonstrate why the evidence we do have for Jesus is in fact exceptional.
It's not really all that exceptional, like in the least bit. It's actually really shitty. The evidence that he goes through and the reasons that he gives for, disputing the mainstream view of a lot of that stuff, he holds to a number of conservative views that are slowly being worked out of academia. And so he has to adhere to the very conservative view in order to make his conclusion warranted. So before we get into the more detailed sections of 10 and 11 that he's about to go through here, let's just recap real quick. Basic historical research is caustic to his hypothesis and his evidence. He classifies historical methodology, like basic historical methodology that you would learn in like a history 101 class. That is a red flag and is a logical fallacy that is caustic to his hypothesis and his evidence. And then finally, asking any questions that deviate away from his predetermined conclusion and any kind of evidence that would disprove his either his evidence as being evidence for his conclusion or disprove his conclusion in general. Those are monumental red flags, and you just shouldn't cut it now, guys, because you just really need to stop that thinking. Stop thinking at that point, because you just need to listen and believe what the guy with the long hair that kind of looks like Jesus says, okay?
Multiple ancient sources that mention Jesus in a variety of ways, degrees of precision and contextual relevance. For this systematic analysis, we will divide these into two categories: dubious sources and certain sources. The first category includes those sources that mention someone that we think could be him, but we are not sure. They could be valid, but they have a lower reliability coefficient. The certain sources are instead those that without question mention him and have a higher degree of verifiability.
Okay. I mean, on the surface, that sounds like good methodology. Dubious sources are less reliable than more certain sources. The problem, though, with all that is that these certain sources that he's going to talk about are actually not certain sources at all. In fact, they're not actually sources whatsoever for Jesus. And he's going to get into a couple of those with his discussion on independence and contemporaneity. So we're about to get into that right now. We're going to try to get through it as much as we can. But I'm probably going to, wherever we're at, I'm going to try to stop at the contemporaneous sources, him going through that, because I definitely want to get through the independent sources. But it just kind of depends on how far we get.
Okay, let's debunk properly this concept of...
Yes, I'll do a follow-on live stream or a recorded video to do it. I plan on doing recorded videos for the his responses to all of the really bad external evidence that they use. I really wish he would have done more with Paul and not just disregarded Paul. I don't know why they think that the external sources are going to be so much better than Paul, but that's what they try to do.
Independent sources. A main point used against these sources is that they are not independent sources. By independent, they mean independent from the gospel and Christian thought, possible thought contamination. In other words,
right. Yes, that's what we want. We want independent testimony about this Jesus character that is not informed by the Gospels. Because if you have somebody that's just parroting what's in the Gospels, then you don't have two sources there. You just have the one source that is the Gospels. This is, I mean, I feel like this is pretty logical, right? Like, I feel like I'm in the fucking Twilight Zone where this guy is like, oh, they want shit that's independent of the God. They don't want sources that are informed by the Gospels. The fuck is wrong with them? Like, I feel like that's Twilight Zone kind of bullshit there.
Words the author in questions heard that Jesus Christ existed from the Christians, or it was common knowledge at the time due to Christian propaganda. This therefore renders the sources not independent. This approach fails to take into consideration the modus operandi of ancient historians. And
No. It's not about the modus operandi of ancient historians. It's just, you know, we want things that are not just regurgitations of the Gospels. Like, I don't know how ancient historian modus operandi factors into this, because like I would think that the modus operandi would be just to record history and to use sources to do that. So like, for instance, Arian wrote a great biography on Alexander the Great. And he had access to firsthand eyewitness sources. And so the modus operandi for Arian was just to report what the firsthand eyewitness sources reported about him. And there are plenty of other like actual contemporaneous authors, that historians that wrote about Alexander the Great. It's just that Arian had access to a lot of great firsthand eyewitness accounts of Alexander the Great, his deeds and everything like that. So it's amazing to me personally that he's acting like requiring independent sources or requiring independence of the Gospels is somehow breaking the modus operandi for ancient historians. Now, do I expect later historians to like use the Gospels to inform their histories? Sure. But the Gospels are not based on firsthand eyewitness accounts. Maybe that's his problem with this assumption here, is that these firsthand eyewitness accounts or the Gospels are not informed by firsthand eyewitness accounts. They're more informed by Scripture, and that's the only source that we can be totally sure of. Did they have other sources behind them? Probably. More than likely, they probably had a lot of oral sources there too. But we can't actually analyze those sources in order to know where they got their information from, whether or not it was made up bullshit or whether it was true history. So we can't know those things. And so that's why the Gospels are useless to us. Sorry, I don't know if my my Instagram thing over here went down, and I'm not exactly sure. Is it still working? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Live video. Oh, okay. I got it back up. Never mind. All right. So I really don't see how this really how the independence factors in here, but I'm sure he's going to tell us.
It is therefore flawed. This is the basis upon which the likes of Robert van Voorst and R.T. France say that Tacitus is not an independent source.
Yes, so that is true. That is the reason why Robert Van Voorst, R.T. France come to the conclusion that they can't establish Tacitus as independent information. Because they can't establish that, then they can't say that it is independent information, and therefore it can't be good evidence for a Jesus, right? I do want to point out here that Robert Van Voorst and R.T. France are New Testament Christian scholars. These are not mythicists. These are people within the New Testament scholarship area that is saying these things. This entire thing is supposed to be responding to mythicist claims, but he's not mentioning any mythicists. No mythicist scholars whatsoever. These are Christians.
From Christians. Now here is why this is a non-scientific and non...
Wait, maybe he specified that. Hold on.
Say that Tacitus is not an independent source from Christians. Now here is why this is a non-scientific and non-academic conspiracy theory.
I just had to laugh because there's nothing conspiratorial about this. And the way that he's presenting it here is just a fucking, I don't want to say lie, but he's just misrepresenting it. Because doing proper source criticism on Tacitus, leading you to accepting the fact that you can't establish independence from the Gospels, and therefore you can't say that he is an independent testimony of Jesus, that's not conspiratorial. What's conspiratorial about that? I have no idea. This just amounts to a whole bunch of word salad that he thinks is going to be rhetorically persuasive to his audience. That's all it is. And if you actually knew what R.T. France and Robert Van Voorst actually say about it, being that we can't establish that Tacitus is getting his information independent of the Gospels from Roman records or whatnot, how that affects the historical method and source criticism, like that is just doing basic history. Again, going back to what we said before, if doing basic historical research disproves your source, the problem is not with the historical research. The problem is with your source.
Like all conspiracy theories, the requirement for this to be true necessitates that all these historians and ancient writers, regardless of their value, skill, professionalism, would have all just repeated hearsay without questioning it.
No, not true. Not true. So first of all, false dichotomy here, because it's either all historians all never wrote hearsay whatsoever down, or they never wrote hearsay down, and so everything is like sourced from Roman records or sourced from whatever kind of records, right? It's either that or they're just all incompetent, right, is what he's getting at here. And that's a false dichotomy. To suggest that ancient historians never wrote down hearsay is just false. Ancient historians would. Normally, they would let you know that they're talking about hearsay kind of thing. And normally, they would, like good historians, ancient historians, they'd let you know where they get their information from. They'd have a whole section, like Arian that I was talking about before. He's got a whole section talking about the sources that he used, why he used them, how he was going to reconcile differences in his sources, contradictions in his sources. And we just don't get that from the Gospels, for one. And for two, we don't get that kind of granularity from Tacitus's work. So he's just presenting a straw man of the situation here. He's presenting a false dichotomy in order to rhetorically gain traction in the argument by making you think that it's either ancient historians were perfect or they're just totally fucking incompetent. And that's just disingenuous.
Without methodically analyzing and confirming that Jesus actually existed. Not only that, but they also would have chosen to commit this piece of information, once again hearsay, into their life's work.
Well, right. So again, he's sitting here and he's saying that like, oh, ancient historians never vetted their work. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that if the ancient historian based their information on the Gospels, then you do not have independent information from the Gospels. You just have a regurgitation of the Gospels. So if you're going to use Tacitus as evidence, then you might as well just use the Gospels. That's all we're saying. Until you can establish the independence of Tacitus's information, you just have the Gospels as a reference. That's not conspiratorial. That's just fucking logical.
Of them in unison, regardless of culture, background, language, religion, social position, funding, political research, access to imperial sources. So to reiterate the absurdity of the statement and the position, mythicists believe not that just one of the historians was incompetent, already particularly difficult to prove, but all of these sources, all of them, every single one of these otherwise exceptional writers, we constantly read value for their work, contributions on this one thing, failed miserably to do their job, and we are to believe they all just repeated hearsay, deliberately choosing once again to commit it to the records and their highly valued historical work.
So I just want to note that ancient historians had like a different criteria for what they considered to be historical. There were ancient historians that reported a number of wildly crazy things. Like I can't remember which historian it was, but they actually recorded like the Oracle of Delphi and like the lion what it's like the lion things that have the wings. I don't know what they're called, but like those kinds of things, they came to life and they did whatever in the fuck and everything like that. So like ancient historians can be duped by hearsay and they can still be doing a very competent job in other areas. Historians, whenever they go and they actually try to use information from ancient historians, modern historians definitely have to scrutinize the information. And there's even one of the very basic tests that historians go through is called the smell test. And basically, if something that's reported by an ancient historian seems magical, fantastical, and all this other stuff, then it probably didn't happen. Like more likely than not, it did not happen. And so like, that's just a very basic like set of criteria there for historians that has stood up over time. And so to sit there and act like just applying a basic smell test to ancient historians means that all ancient historians were incompetent and that you can't trust anything that they say. That's not what mythicists are saying. So he's presenting a straw man argument here about mythicists and their gripes with the evidence that they provide. It's not conspiratorial and it's not some kind of red flag or logical fallacy to point out how they are not independent from the Gospels. So you literally just have the Gospels there. All of the historians that he put up there, the ancient historians that he mentions in his video, they're all either informed by the Gospels or they were interpolated by later Christians, like in the 3rd or 4th century. They were interpolated to add historical veracity to Christianity, because at that point in time in the 3rd to 4th century CE, that's when it was coming into scrutiny. And so that's why like Eusebius would invent things into his own church's history and invent things in various other ancient sources that was supposed to give an air of historicity to their faith. It was coming up, it was being questioned, it was actively being debated at that point, but that came much later in the 3rd to 4th century CE. And the early days of Christianity, they did not care about the history of it. And that's not to say that the ancient historians were incompetent or they weren't doing their jobs or anything like that, but they were just as susceptible to bad information as we are today. If you think about how susceptible people are today, it was so much worse back then. So he is doing the anachronistic thing of applying a modern sensibility onto these ancient historians and applying a modern criteria for ancient historiography. And he is not taking the ancient historians for what they were, and that's that they were human. So they were susceptible to hearsay. They were susceptible to false information.
absurd. But let's go deeper. Correlation does not imply causation. What this means that even if we were to accept that the sources, all of them, are not independent from Christian thought, that wouldn't prove that Jesus didn't exist historically.
I agree, but also that's not what mythicists say. Just because there are no external sources from the Christian corpus does not mean that Jesus didn't exist as a historical person. He could have totally existed as a historical person. It's just that the stuff was written about him so soon after his death, his supposed death, that nobody else could have written anything about him until, without incorporating that kind of information in it. So all we're saying is that you can't use those sources because those sources just regurgitate what's already in the historical record as the Gospels and Paul's work, right? So those don't count as separate sources. Those are just regurgitating the things that we already have. That's all that we're saying. So that's why all of your external sources are totally shit and don't prove your point there, Metatron. It's because they're built off of already existing sources that are already existing in our pile of evidence here. And that's the Gospels and that's Paul's work. Those are the things, okay? Can't use those other things that just regurgitate the shit you already have. So this is just patently not what mythicists say. Mythicists, like minimal mythicists like myself, actually have a more sophisticated argument about the origins of Christianity without a real historical Christ. It does not involve anything in the Roman ancient historians recorded or anything like that, because everything happened incredibly fast at that point in time. Like when I say incredibly fast, I mean like, it's 40 years. Well, if you think about the main canon of Christianity, when those were written, we're talking like 100 years. So we're talking about 100 years of a development here that these later ancient historians are just referencing that 100 years of development that's already there. So all we're asking for is some kind of historical sourcing that existed alongside like Paul, but separate from Paul, that existed even alongside Jesus, because there were people that were writing about that. I mean, he's going to bring up Josephus in his video about that and about the, as evidence or whatnot. Josephus definitely records like peasant messiahs that were rising up and trying to fulfill those messianic prophecies, certain sets of them. And so like we expect people to notice those things and to write about those things. If the Gospels happen just like a lot of apologists claim, there were ancient historians that should have recorded a number of things that popped up. Like there was one, I can't remember who the historian was right off the top of my head, but he had a book called Natural History, and where he talked about natural events that happened at that time. And one thing that he doesn't note is like a 3-hour darkness that descended in the 30s AD, nor an earthquake. And there's other ancient historians that would have definitely recorded like a fucking zombie apocalypse and all this other kind of shit. So like we have a number of reasons not to count the Gospels as historical evidence for Jesus. Any external source that's just going to quote and parrot what the Gospels say are not going to be reliable sources. And this is just basic source criticism.
Just because two things happen together or show similar patterns, it doesn't mean that one causes the other or that they are meaningfully related. No, the reality is the following. We have pagan authors who say that Christianity is an abject cult. We have even a pagan philosopher, Celsus, who sets out to dismantle the foundations of Christianity in the 2nd century AD, writing in his True Discourse. Let's read him. Open quote.
Well, let's read him. This should come with caveats here. The only surviving quotes we have from Celsus's dissertation or writings supposedly disproving Christianity come from the citations and quotations of Origen. Now, one thing that you have to understand with this is that what you have to do is assume that Origen is faithfully quoting the source that he's using. He's faithfully quoting Celsus. Now, there's no reason for us to think that he would be misquoting him or anything like that, but the fact is that we don't have Celsus's original writings to actually be able to make that determination. So this is not like Celsus. This is Origen quoting Celsus. And with that comes the caveat that Origen could have gotten something wrong. He could have copied it down wrong. There could have been some kind of copy error in any kind of translation or anything like that, or transcription. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities for things to be wrong here. So it's not, I just want people to be correctly contextualized in this, in that you're not actually reading what Celsus wrote, right? You're reading what Origen wrote, or what Origen said that Celsus wrote is what's going on here.
You, he's talking about Jesus, invented being born of a virgin. You were born in a village in Judea to a local woman, a poor day laborer who spun thread. She was driven out by her husband, a carpenter by trade, for proven adultery, repudiated by her husband and reduced to ignominious wandering. She secretly gave birth to you from a soldier named Pantera. Because of your poverty, you worked as a hired hand in Egypt, where you became skilled in certain powers which the Egyptians pride themselves on. Then you returned, and emboldened by these powers, because of them, you proclaimed yourself Son of God. You bound to yourself 10 or 11 discredited men, tax collectors, and the most wretched sailors, and together with these you hide, now here, now there, procuring your food in a shameful way, and amid countless difficulties. Close quotes.
Right. Now, considering what was said there, I mean, that would be great evidence for a historical Jesus, right? Where did that information come from? Well, it came from Celsus. Okay, well, even by Metatron's own account here, Celsus was in the 2nd century, right? Mid-2nd century, mid to late 2nd century. So considering that, there's no way that Celsus actually knew Jesus, talked to Jesus, or anything like that. So what source did Celsus use? Oh, you're gonna tell me that Origen didn't write down what the source was that Celsus used. Oh, okay, so there's no way for us to know where Celsus got his information. All right, so there's no way for us to know that Celsus wasn't just making this shit up as some kind of rhetorical device against the Christians. No, we can't actually say that he didn't make this up. And my guess is that Metatron would throw his hands up in the air and be like, oh, well, then I guess we can't trust any kind of history now, huh? Well, fucking shit. I didn't break it that time. So I mean, what it comes down to is when you hear these references, there are basic questions that you should ask yourself, and it's not fallacious, and it's not a red flag to ask yourself these questions, okay? Questions like, where did this information come from? Oh, it came from Celsus. Well, Celsus was in the 2nd century. Where did he get his information from? Because it definitely wasn't like a direct interaction with Jesus, right? So where did he get his information from? Oh, you don't know. Okay, so then we can't verify where the information came from. It's not evidence. That is a really simple logical train that you can follow whenever somebody brings up some kind of historical evidence for Jesus, anything about Jesus, especially the magical shit, but just asking, where did the information come from? Because I can guarantee you any of the information that, or any of the sources that anybody would bring up ultimately go all the way back to Paul. Like if they cite the Gospels, that traces back to Paul. Right? And Paul is the one gateway that we have to all the information that we have about Jesus. And you know what's funny about that? Paul never met Jesus. He didn't know anybody that met Jesus. He never says that anybody that he knew or he talked to actually met Jesus, except for in visions. And, he was a divine revelatory being at that point. And so considering that, we just simply don't have any actual historical records or evidence whatsoever for a Jesus.
As we can see by reading this passage, those who oppose Christianity in period, they discredit it, they attack it, and those who want to question its structure go as far as to say that Jesus was an illegitimate son of a soldier and using magician tricks learnt in Egypt, but no one questions his existence. Not even this man tries to do that, and that's indicative. In light of this fact, it's unthinkable that they would have not used the possibility of him not actually existing to try and dismantle Christianity if they had any reason to doubt his historical existence, just once again as a matter of deductive logic.
Well, no. So just because nobody questioned his historical existence or anything like that does not mean that that's somehow verifying that Jesus was a historical figure. This is, again, an illegitimate argument from silence here. This illegitimate argument from silence claims that just because nobody was talking about how he didn't exist, therefore he did exist. I feel like, you should be better than that. You should be better than using these argument from silences in order to justify a positive claim. All that you can say is that, well, they didn't talk about his historical existence. Well, what does that mean? Oh, well, could that mean that they just didn't care about the historical veracity of the faith and they only cared about the theological truth? Yep, that's one possibility. What do the early church fathers say about it? Oh, well, the early church fathers actually say that in several instances that they only cared about the theological truths of the faith, and they showed no kind of care for a historical veracity of the faith. Oh, okay. Well, then that just seems like they only cared about the theological truths of it rather than the historical nature of it. And so we can't say whether or not they actually considered it historical because they didn't care about the historical nature of it. All we can say is that they cared about the theological truth, and that's it. See, this is the main problem of Metatron here, is that he takes one little nugget and then he goes just a little bit farther. You know what that sounds like?
It sounds like conspiracy theorists, just in case you were curious about that.
Razor. Moreover, the Jews don't question Christ's existence. This point is crucial, because if there had been the slightest doubt about his existence historically, they wouldn't have failed to make it known. As Pascal said, open quotes, the Jews are irreproachable witnesses, but all specialists agree on Jesus' historicity.
Okay, well, I mean, that's just one guy making a fallacious claim or making a fallacious argument from, authority. And, saying, oh, well, the Jews didn't use Jesus' ahistoricity as an argument against it, so therefore, the Jesus did exist historically. So just think about how hard it is to verify information now, and it's going to be 10 times harder at that point in time in the past, right? So you can't sit there and act like, oh, they could easily verify this information. No, they couldn't. If, according to Paul, Jesus was a purely revelatory being to Paul. That's the only historical evidence that we have about this person that we know of as Jesus. And so because of that, this divine figure was real to him, was real to the first Christians. Right? So the first Christians were like, oh, this person is real. It's not until much later, like 3rd or 4th century, did people actually start to question whether or not this person was real or this figure was real. Right? They assumed he was real, and just like they assumed other things were real. They assumed Zeus was real. They assumed Hercules was real. They assumed Attis was real. Isis and Osiris. They assumed that was real. They assumed a lot of deities at that time were real physical beings that inhabited a certain place in the universe, but they were real, right? So yes, they did believe that they were real in the sense that they were corporeal, but as far as the historical veracity of the faith, they just simply didn't care about it because they only cared about the theological truth of it. So using the Jews at that time as some kind of appeal to authority is not going to get you to a historical Jesus, because the Jews are just working off of what the Christians were saying, and the Christians early euhemerized Jesus into history. So what are the Jews to think at this point about it? When the Talmud was written and everything like that, I mean, it was well assumed by that point that Jesus had this historical narrative taught about him, right? So it's just very difficult to get this kind of information.
Close quotes. Remember, the correct question in this context is, what reasons do we have to doubt the sources we have about him?
Oh, okay. No, that's a good question. Let me go back to that question. What reasons do we have to doubt the sources we have about him. About Jesus, okay, well, the only source that we really have is Paul. Paul only tells us about a divine revelatory figure and the scriptures as being the sources of his information. So we don't have any luck with Paul as far as getting like real historical information about this figure. Who else says anything about him? Does anybody? No, nobody? Nobody else does? Okay. Well, it seems like we only got Paul. So what do the sources say about him? Well, the sources, all of these external sources that Metatron brings up are just regurgitating what the Gospels say. The Gospels are just reifying what Paul said into history as what Jesus said. So really, they're just regurgitating what Paul is saying about Jesus and Paul's theology about Jesus. So it's really just Paul all the way down. Why do we doubt that? Because revelatory beings typically and all throughout history have not been real. Those are not real things that happen. Those are hallucinations. That's why we doubt.
Doubt the sources we have about him. Identifying the correct placement of the burden of proof is another fundamental aspect of this whole discussion, and I'm adamant about it. Now, if I say Jesus existed historically, and you tell me, no, I don't think he existed, then the burden of proof is on me. I'm the one making the statement. So if I try and do what some Christian apologists do, which is wrong, and I try to flip the burden of proof onto the person stating that Jesus didn't exist, then I'm not being coherent at that point.
No, you'd still be coherent. I mean, I'm saying Jesus didn't exist, right? If the fallacy or the shifting of the burden of proof would be if you made the claim that Jesus did exist, and then because I'm like, I don't know if he existed or not, then, you coming back to me and being like, well, you need to prove, he didn't exist. It's like, well, no, that just doesn't make sense. I'm just saying that I don't know. I'm saying I'm making a positive claim, but Metatron here is also making the positive claim. So mythicists and Metatron here are both making positive claims. So we both have to support our cases for it, which there are multiple academically peer-reviewed monographs that he could pick up. Well, I say multiple only because Obsolete Paradigm by Richard Carrier is about to come out. We've been reading through it because we're recording the audiobook for it. But so there's On the Historicity of Jesus, and then there's Raphael Lataster's Questioning the Historicity of Jesus, and there's Obsolete Paradigm. And just as a bonus, there's also Proving History, which doesn't directly deal with the historical nature of Jesus, but does give you a really good foundation of how to do the historical method and how to do evidentially based historical reasoning through Bayesian reasoning. So there's that. Also, I want to point out, not academically peer-reviewed or anything like that. It's more of a pop-level thing, but Not the Impossible Faith by Richard Carrier dives a lot into the history of the historical Jesus claims, but it's pop-level. Not that really diminishes its usability or anything like that, but just a fact out there. But I would also suggest that one, Not the Impossible Faith by Richard Carrier, is a really great book to give you a good foundation for counter-resurrection apologetics, and just history of Christianity shit. So I don't even know what got me off on this, but let's see where he's going.
I'm the one making the claim Jesus existed historically, and therefore I'm the one who has the burden of proof. And the way you approach that is we do what we're doing on this video. We review the evidence and discuss its validity. However, the same concept applies to mythicists. If we are reviewing the evidence and you state that the evidence in question is not independent from Christian thought, now the burden of proof is on you.
Yes, which we do. We explain how they're not independent. Josephus, not independent. If anything, it's definitely based on the Gospels. And I think that it was the Testimonium Flavianum was written by Eusebius, and then there was an accidental interpolation for the James passage. So, I mean, that's what I think about it. Tacitus, no, informed by the Gospels in one way or another. Suetonius, not talking about Jesus. Lucian of Samosata, not informed by the Gospels. Marbar Serapion, informed by the Gospels. Thales, informed by, would be informed by the Gospels, but also not talking about Jesus or really placing Jesus in history, just mentioning, you know, the general claims of Christians, I guess, so influenced by the Gospels. I feel like it's a very important thing to point out how much of the evidence that they present external to the Bible and Christian claims is influenced by those Christian claims. It ends up being a circular argument to use them as evidence, because the Bible is the claim, and if later Roman historians or other historians use those claims and state them as like fact, or just this is what the Christians believe, then you therefore cannot come all the way back around to prove that the stories in the Gospels and Paul are true. Like, it's a circular fucking argument. It circles all the way down to Paul. I'm fucking dizzy now.
Such claim, and having reviewed all of the evidence that has been brought forth in order to strengthen this idea that the sources are not independent from Christian thought, it is quite clear that the evidence is inconsequential and inconclusive. The idea of questioning Jesus' historicity and considering it as either Christian propaganda or some sort of construct created by Christians without any foundation of history is a modern concept. It is a modern approach. It is
No, I mean, the way we do source criticism may be modern, but the modern way that we do source criticism helps us get to more factual information. It's meant to weed out duplicative information in our historical sourcing. So like, you may think that you have something that's multiply attested, but if you find out that that is just regurgitating a source that you already have, then you really only have one source. This is not hard. Right? He's making the conscious decision to not do history, yet he runs a fucking history channel that's as bad as the History Channel. History. It's really dumb shittery is what it should be.
Shaped around the idea
dumb fuckery.
That now we know how to do history, but ancient historians didn't. The reality is that it is instead very likely that being so close to his existence, more evidence and continuous generational memory was so strong that no one thought it possible to even question it at the time. Hence, whoever wanted to try and attack Christianity decided to instead attack the declaration of his divinity.
Well, no, so he's making an ad hoc assumption here, in that because they didn't attack the historical veracity of the faith, therefore it means that it was historical. That is an argument from silence, and it's fallacious. So no, that argument is not logically sound. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, he's done it multiple times in this. He keeps making the same point over and over, using an argument from silence, and like an I call it illegal, but it's an unsound argument from silence. And he goes too far with it, which again sounds a lot like a conspiracy nut, right? So, I mean, unless the only one that's being conspiratorial here is Metatron.
Being a matter of faith rather than historical evidence. And that's why, when facing real professional academic scrutiny, the idea of these sources not being independent from Christian thought simply because they existed within a time span that included Christians in the question is, as we were saying, flawed.
No, it's not flawed. It's doing basic history, historical method. Because if, these ancient historians are writing at a time when Christians are around, and they're pulling their information from Christians themselves, then you just have the Christians parroting what the Christians believe. That's not a historical evidence of a real figure named Jesus in the first century. If you have ancient historians that are using firsthand eyewitness accounts, regardless of whether they're Christian or not, like if they're firsthand eyewitness account of what Jesus actually did during his life, then that would be sound academic, or that would be a sound historical source for Jesus, right? But we don't have that. So the way that he generalizes all of this stuff and everything in general is just it's sickening to hear from someone who has established himself as a sort of amateur historian here on YouTube, which I maybe I shouldn't say amateur historian or anything like that, because I don't know what his credentials are, if he actually is a historian. If he actually is a historian, then fuck, I don't know what to say. He needs to get his money back for whatever degree he got. But if he's an amateur, I totally understand him not knowing how to do historical research. And if he does this kind of historical research in other areas, then he's knowingly making the decision to do history wrong here and to inform his audience in a wrong way about how history is done. So like, he's doing everything wrong here, which he's about to get into the contemporary sources, but we are running out of time. And so I think that what we're going to do is we're going to cover the contemporary sources, his problems with that, at a different time. But so that's going to be it for that. What we, let me get back here. There we go. So what we covered today in today's show is his initial gripes about the basic historical method, how it's very caustic to the case that he builds using his external sources for Jesus, his biblically external sources for Jesus. And then we analyzed his arguments against requiring independent testimony of Jesus and why the sources that he is using are not considered independent. And it's not due to any kind of conspiratorial thing. It's just doing basic source criticism on our sources. Because if, and I've said this like 3 or 4 times already, if you have a source that is parroting a source already in your repertoire, already in your pile of evidence for whatever claim you're making, then you don't have another independent source. You have a duplicative source. So you really only have that one original source. And for all of the external evidence that he uses in his video, we already have that in evidence, and that's the Gospels. And the Gospels are already not reliable due to the type, like the genre of work that they are, but also, more importantly, because of the fact that they lack any kind of sourcing material in them. We don't know where they get their information from, but the little bit that we do know is that they got their some of their information from Scripture. The rest of it, we have no fucking clue. During this video, I stepped you through how to do some basic historical reasoning whenever somebody brings up a historical source, like with Celsus. With Celsus's work, you first have to ask, where did he get that information from? Well, I guess technically you have to first ask, when did he write this? Mid-2nd century. Okay, well, he couldn't have gotten it from Jesus or anybody that knew Jesus. Where did he get his information from? And you have to do a big old WhatsApp like that one woman in the comments, like, kind of thing. Like, you have to do that because you don't know. You don't know if Celsus just made this kind of bullshit up, which more than likely he did, and everything. And the best retort that Metatron has so far as independence goes, as far as the basic historical method of historians goes, is that he has to invent an argument from silence in order to suggest that ancient historians believed that he was and verified that he was an actual historical figure because they didn't mention that he wasn't a historical figure, or they didn't question the historical veracity of it, when in reality in the 3rd to 4th century is when people started questioning it. Well, they could have started questioning it before. I mean, Celsus wrote in the 2nd century, so I just think that early Christians would have dismissed anybody complaining about the historical nature of it, because nobody was concerned about the historical nature of it. Nobody cared about history in this particular context at that time. So yeah, that's going to be it for me tonight. I'm about to go into the Skeptic Mafia comments. We're going to be ending the live stream over there on Instagram, which, like, there's nobody watching over on Instagram, but
you know who was on Instagram earlier?
Huh?
The Skeptic.
The Skeptic? I did see the Skeptic there.
And then also Casey.
Casey, yeah?
He was over there, yeah, chilling. So I and was there for a while, so I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I saw that the Apostate Sisters were on Instagram, and then I saw them on the YouTube feed.
Oh, I didn't see them on Insta, but I saw them over here.
Yeah. But in any case, I'm gonna stop the live stream over there when we go to the Skeptic Mafia comments. But I do have a lot of appearances coming up here in this next week. Sunday night at 7 p.m. over on the line, I am going to be taking calls with Erica Gutsick Gibbon over there on the line. We start at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll go to I don't know. It can't be too late because I got to get up at 4 a.m. the next day. So I got that on Sunday. On Monday night at 6 p.m. Central, I'm going to be with Aaron Adair answering your questions over there on the line too. And then later on in the week, we've got Jasper Hoffman over there on the line. I'm going to be hosting her, talking about her work with the Amish and the Mennonites on Friday at 6 p.m. So we won't have a live stream over here, but we will have a live stream on the line featuring Jasper and myself.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
Sidney Davis Jr. Tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow. It would be the next Saturday.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going through the next week.
Sorry, I thought you had her tomorrow.
No, I don't have her tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't have anybody for tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we got Sidney Davis Jr., which I was getting to.
Sorry.
On Saturday, she's going to come on and talk about, debate tactics and because she's been a professional debater for 11 years or something like that. So she's going to come on and give, talk to us about, how to have better conversations, how to, do better in debates and everything like that. I feel like it's mostly for me so that I could do better on the line so that, people start liking me over there.
Plus, she's hilarious.
Yeah, she is very hilarious, and she gave me really good feedback on my stand-up routine at NanoCon. But anyways, we're going to get to the Skeptic Mafia comments. If you're leaving out right now, or if you're on Instagram, I hope that you will hit that follow button or hit that subscribe button here on YouTube, and I will see all you heathens later. Y'all have a great weekend. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, except for the people on Instagram.
I also have a couple of questions.
Oh, you do?
Well, yeah. The fire background, is that supposed to be hell? 1020 carry.
Is the background supposed to be hell? Yes, kind of. You can see the Godless Engineer sort of name right there. Basically, I brokered a deal with Satan to put my name on a wall, and this is pretty much just my little room in hell that I broadcast from.
And the other question is, when are you going to do a Skeptic Mafia hangout?
That's a good question. I would think that... Huh?
Skeptic, repeat.
The question was, when are we going to have another Skeptic Mafia hangout? And I think that... I guess it would have to be, it would either have to be this weekend or it would have to be the 30th. We could do a hangout tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any of the Skeptic Mafia that's in the chat right now, are you good with a hangout tomorrow? I think probably around 2 p.m. Central would be good. That's right in the middle of the afternoon, right after lunch and everything like that. I do need to watch that with Xander. Yeah, it would probably have to be about 4 p.m. tomorrow, Central. I'll put up something on the channel over there. I'll put up something so that everybody can get that. All the best people are in hell. I agree. Okay, now that everybody's sufficiently gone, let's get to the Skeptic Mafia comments about this shitty fucking video. Here we go. Let's see, sort by newest. There we go. I don't know why, unless I sort by newest, apparently it doesn't do it very good. It doesn't show all of them. Okay, so first up, huh? Yeah, I'm zooming in. All right, first up, we've got Netzumi Tomato, who says load prompt boy kisser JPEG. Okay. Boy Kisser says no. Be like Boy Kisser. They do not accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior and prefer to just go around kissing boys. You want to be big shot, don't you? Don't want to be the next big thing? Then go ahead and like and subscribe. And after all that, want to know a secret? Hyperlinked blocked. Thank you so much there, Netzumi. Next is Mark Fernkoff, who says, holy magic Jesus, fuck bowls, Batman. Sorry, I've been trying to get GE to say that for ages, it seems. When we did the video that actually had the magic Jesus fuck bowls. But somehow the last 2 times we did a Friday night video response stream, the Skeptic Mafia comments didn't all get read. Shakes fists angrily at GE. I know, I'm such a horrible host here. I tried to watch this video while I started work today, but I just kept thinking about how awesome the latest episode of Dexter Resurrection was instead of paying attention to this video. I need to, yeah, we're gonna watch that maybe later tonight as we're eating or something like that. I'm really hungry. It's kind of boring, but to this guy's credit, he does seem far more adept than most apologists. He seems to know the mythicist arguments and addresses them, though he dismisses them out of hand. He at least knows and addresses them. Credit where credit is due. I know GE will put him in his place. New Toast to Toast AM tonight at 9 p.m. Central. Oh, cool. I love and worship the goddess Candy Black. Later, heathens. Yeah, so sorry about not reading the comments on the last couple of times we've done a live stream. Trying to get better about that. Trying to get into the swing of being more reliable in that aspect. So sorry about that, Mark. But let's see. I'm glad you didn't spoil anything about Dexter Resurrection because we're going to watch that. But I don't feel like this guy was more adept than most apologists. I feel like he definitely presented himself, you know, in a way that has an air of like trying to do good history, but he ends up just, you know, doing the exact same thing that apologists do. And so I feel like he just comes across as an educated apologist, which is what a lot of apologists, like a lot of New Testament scholars are. They're just educated apologists. And the way that he addresses the everything is totally undercut by what we covered tonight with independent sourcing. He's building his entire foundation on fallacious reasoning, and there's no way you can get to a good conclusion from that. And the rest of his video is a testament to that. Next is Limited Light, who says, had to respond as follows to one of the commenters. That's funny, OP. Before posting that claim, did you double check? Look up Christian Excusagists and Sean McDowell's The Historical Jesus versus the Historical Buddha. Shall I go on? Thank you, Limited Light. Torbjorn says, this could be interesting since I'm a fan of both channels. Interesting. I didn't know I shared any kind of I guess viewership with Metatron there. Mr. Handshake says, we have the live streams again. I'll have to set my alarm. Yeah, so I do plan on getting into more of a swing of things. I am going to be streaming over on the line on Friday nights on occasion, so I'm going to figure out a better way to do, like, you know, lives and everything. So we'll just have to, we'll fill it out and see what's going to be right for us. But that's all of the Skeptic Mafia comments. I really appreciate all of the Skeptic Mafia members. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for leaving comments there about everything. And yes, I was getting there. Thank you for all of the super chats and everything. You guys are great and awesome. It was nice seeing all the super chats come through. I know I've really been shitty about incentivizing those things, but thank you guys so much for showing up in the super chats there. Oh yeah, and fuck God. Anyways, heathens, I'm gonna go. I hope that y'all have an awesome night, awesome weekend, and all that kind of good shit. Mafiosos, be on the lookout on the channel for me setting up the hangout, and I will see all you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice. Bye, heathens. And go watch Paul, you dirty fucking heathens.